Good afternoon. Welcome to the Committee on Education. Today is March 17th, 2025. It's 3:00 p.m. and we are in room 229. First on the agenda is House Bill 110 HD1 relating to local agricultural products. And to testify, Ikarashi.
Aloha, Chair Kidani, and members of the committee. My name is Dean Uchida, Deputy Superintendent, Department of Education, testifying. We stand on our written testimony providing comments on this measure. The department appreciates this bill's intent to clarify the local food purchase goals and will do its best to meet the 30% mandate by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to testify, Department of Agriculture.
Aloha, Chair Kidani, and members of the committee, Matthew Look on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. We will stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to testify, Kavika Kahiapo.
Hello, Chair Kidani, members of the committee. Kavika Kahiapo with Hawaii Public Health Institute and Hawaii Farm to School Network. This bill well aligns Acts 175 and 176, helping us to make sure that the measurements for reaching 30% by 2030 is manageable. We strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions? Moving on. House Bill 1293 relating to the Department of Education procurement exempts Department of Education purchases of local edible produce and packaged food products less than a certain amount from the electronic procurement system requirement. Requires at least 3 written quotes for DOE purchases of local edible produce and packaged food products between certain amounts. Requires at least 2 written quotes for Department of Education purchases of local edible produce and packaged food products between certain amounts for certain schools in rural communities. To testify, Superintendent, DOE.
Hello, Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, members of the committee, Dean Uchida, Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next to testify, Kavika Kahiapo.
Hello, Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, members of the committee. Again, Kavika Kahiapo, Hawaii Public Health Institute, Hawaii Farm to School Network. We strongly support this bill. This is another tool that the DOE can use to help meet the 30% threshold. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to testify, Myung Oh. Young, not here. Next to testify, Micah Munikata.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair. Ulupona will stand on his testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you, Micah. Next to testify, Bonnie Kahapui.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Bonnie Kahakui, Administrator, State Procurement Office. The State Procurement Office will stand on its written testimony, providing comments. The $100,000 threshold is an amount that was agreed to by DOE in previous conversations. Thank you. Available for questions.
Thank you, Bonnie. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this matter? Come forward, please.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Cedric Gates here on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. The department stands on its written testimony, offering comments on this measure. Here for any questions, Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to testify, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. My apologies, Chair. If you do not have our written testimony, make sure the committee gets our written testimony. We are in support of this measure, as with all farm to school initiatives. We absolutely support. We want to see the DOE achieve those goals. As you heard previous testifiers, this is a tool. Again, any support and tools that we can give to the Department of Education to try to achieve at least the first 30% goal, and then ultimately get up to 50%. And we'd like to see that higher. But again, we need to provide DOE the ability to achieve these goals. So we're in strong support, and we will submit our written testimony if the committee does not have it, Chair. My apologies.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Members, questions?
All right, Assistant Superintendent, shall we try round 2 on this bill?
Shoot, let's go.
So maybe you can give us better clarity of what you're trying to accomplish since the last time we heard this bill.
Okay, well, we put out a request for proposal. I think that we use the DOD's one, and there's another one that we'll go out to supplement the DOD's list. That only goes out once a year. So in the interim, if we find a product that we want to try, this would give us an opportunity to do it. We use the small purchase procurement to buy poi, and it's like $25,000 and below. And it was successful, but we can only do it one time. So if anything else comes up that's not on the vendor list that we want to try, this gives us an opportunity to try different products.
So this is solely using state funds.
Correct.
Okay, and these are direct to vendor purchases.
Correct.
So why can't you guys go through your current vendors and have them purchase it for you
It's not
under
on
your current contract?
I don't
Because
think
it's state
listed.
funds, right?
Yeah,
It's not
but-
Fed funds,
right.
it's state funds.
I don't think it's a product is listed in the current RFPs or IFBs,
Why not though?
because it's a new product. Like poi wasn't on the vendor list before.
But wouldn't you want to fix that part first? The whatever, so you can have flexibility on meeting the 30, your goals of locally sourced food. Wouldn't you write that more? Because again, it's a state funds, not federal funds.
Correct.
You should have more control over what state funds can buy. So I'm just
Right.
trying to get an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish here.
If it's not on the vendor list, this gives us a chance to purchase the food item.
But what I'm saying is, why don't you put it on the vendor list?
We will, we're trying to now, we're trying to put poi on the list.
But don't you have control over that? How often do you go out for a contract?
We have to go to USDA to meet the requirements.
But these are
for-
state funds, not Fed funds.
But to get it on the list, to get the reimbursement from USDA, USDA has to approve the product and the ingredients. And then we can get it on the list, and then we can purchase from that. So there's two different procurements. There's a state one, and then there's the USDA requirement,
That's right.
right?
So, but my understanding is state funds are flexible. The Fed funds are the ones that have to follow that.
But you still need to have the product on the list that the vendor's providing.
Okay, so
How
So-
long does it take to get on
yeah,
the list?
so how long would that take?
They go out once a year, I said. So next time it comes up, we're trying to get poi approved by USDA, so we can put it on the list the next time it goes out.
Okay, but can't you start thinking of things that you should be starting to put on that list
We are right now.
proactively?
Yeah, we are right now. We're looking at the menu. We're trying to increase the amount of local produce we can purchase in our existing menu.
Okay, so then
So
you're good then.
we don't have poi on the list right now. So we're trying to get it added. We find other products that we can put on the list. We're gonna put it on the next time it goes out.
Okay, well, I have to say, you're not making a good case of what you're trying to accomplish. I think that was the problem the last time, is we just need to understand what mechanically you're trying to get to. It's just sounds like you're just trying to go around procurement, and there's no thought process on how we're trying to put this all together. Because as I said, this is state funds. State funds supposed to be very flexible. If you're trying to meet USDA guidelines, okay, that's fine. But you said you could purchase up to 25,000 already as a pilot. So you would think that, okay, that should work. So then when you go in and get the approval of whatever you're trying to get, it should be within the plan. So I'm just trying to I'm confused on what this is trying to accomplish. You're saying you're going to give you more tools, but it just sounds like it's just allowing you to do one-offs instead of trying to put it together comprehensively.
Well, I apologize if I'm not communicating effectively, but what we're trying to do is, if we go out once a year to get the new product listed, it's passed already, and if something comes up that we want to try, this gives us an opportunity to
Yeah, but
try
you
test it
said you
out.
can do up to 25,000. So if in the 25,000 it's successful, then you know you have to put it into the
Right, but
next round.
25,000 was only like a handful of schools we could supply.
Yeah, but if it's local foods, how many vendors actually can supply that amount?
We're trying to find out right now.
Well, that's what you're supposed to prove through the small purchases. You should have more info with it rather than just saying, okay, we're gonna give you $100,000 and let us figure it out. You should be able to prove that, because my thing is I'm not sure there's that many that can meet that demand that you're looking for, albeit statewide. Because I think the thing that I'm trying to make you guys realize is that when you deal with small farmers, it's very difficult to deal with the DOE. Right. And so you may not, you need to understand what that small farmer, mix is like, and what will, make them deal directly with you. That's why I'm like, okay, if you have somebody existing, if you have an aggregator, that might be easier to make it successful. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm listening to this. I don't know if you have it thought out. I think I thought a little bit about this area. It's just when you present to us, I'm not sure it makes sense in my head.
Well, we're looking for the companies that can provide the product on each island. And once we identify them, we're going to try to work with the distributors to make sure that they connect with the producers. So I don't think we want to set up a model where we're purchasing directly from the farmers. We want to go through the distributors who can aggregate different suppliers on any island and provide us the product to us.
Right. That's what we've been asking. So is this
Right.
bill what you need to allow your
This is just-
aggregators?
this
But
is
this
just
sounds like this is direct, right?
This is just a short-term interim until we can get the product on the list, and then we can start dealing with the distributors to aggregate the different farmers.
All right.
No problem. Okay, so last time you told us that you would see if you could get it on the list, right? That the contract might not have gone out yet. When did the contract go out?
I think it went out already.
When did
I
it
think it
go?
went out in February. I think it was February last
You
month.
think it was
Yeah,
February?
I can
We
get
had this-
I'll
we
get
had
you the
this-
exact date.
Okay, we had these questions and you would think you would have it now because this is a similar bill. And I asked that question to you in the Senate bill, right?
Okay, I'll get it
Okay.
for you this time.
Okay, so February. So in order to get it on, and you're gonna go back out again next February? Is that the plan? How often do you go out?
I think it's once a year, but I
Once
can
a year.
check to make sure.
Okay, so if it's once a year and you already went out in February, is it good to assume that you're gonna go out next February?
I don't want to speculate, but probably, yeah.
Probably. Okay, so you can put this on the next list for February. You can put FOI on the list.
Yeah,
for
once we get
February.
approval from USDA.
You can put it on.
Right.
Okay, so now you have this bill. This bill may not get into effect until the governor sign it or whatever. And so you're gonna be able to put all this together and get somebody for $100,000 worth of poi to be able to procure $100,000 worth of poi. Yet in February, it's gonna go on the list. So between now and February, why do you need this interim bill?
If there's another product that we want to test aside from poi, then we can use this bill to test the product.
But you can test the product with current 25,000,
But it's very limited on what we can only do it one time a year.
only
on
one,
small-
why
on a
only
small
one time?
purchase,
You cannot do multiple small purchases to different vendors?
not for the same product.
No, I thought you said you want a different product. Didn't you just tell me it's for a different?
I'm saying if we purchase a new product, say some, limo. If we put a small purchase for limo out, we cannot do another small purchase for limo at the
Right,
25,000.
okay, but how many,
Are you
Okay.
talking about every school year or forever?
1 year, school year.
okay, so you can do one small purchase a year, one small purchase for $25,000, period,
That's correct
per year
for
okay.
that product,
for that product. So you put out one for poi already.
right?
Did you put one out for poi?
We did one last year, I think,
For
last fall.
poi?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did it, when did you do that?
I don't know the exact date. I can get that for you.
Okay, because you already did that, so you would think that it would have gone, if you had already done it, why didn't it go on to the February?
Because we don't
Okay.
have the USDA approval of poi as an item we can use. We have to approve the dietary
So what,
components of the.
okay, so what process are you in with the USDA to
We're,
get poi
we're working
approved?
it out with them now and the content.
How
There's
long have you been working it out with them?
the last several months, we've been going back and forth with them to try and get poi approved.
Okay, so now you want us, you want this to go up because you might want to do limu? Or,
Or some other product that we don't have on the list right now.
so how have you been doing it before?
The 25,000 small
Yeah,
purchase. Yeah.
you've been doing that, right? I mean, how much limu farmers that do limu can do $50,000 or $100,000 worth of limu?
I don't know. We haven't asked them. I'm just saying that this is a vehicle we can use for something. The limo is just an example. I'm not saying we're gonna purchase $100,000 with a limo.
But you're saying you can only do it once, right? So can you do, okay, so if it's $100,000, can you do 4 small purchases for 25,000 each?
I don't know. I would have to check with procurement on that.
Yes, sure. So, right, we could do it up to 100,000. But that's the parts thing. So if you do 4 of 25,000, we could do that if we have the 100,000 threshold, because we would fall under that 100,000.
But you cannot do it for the same vendor, right?
We could do it for this, you could do it as long as it's under the 100,000 total cap, we could do that. Yeah.
And the purpose for doing that would be what?
Maybe if we want to do a different island, or if we want to do a different bunch of schools to see if it's just as popular within those schools or in others, because as Senator Hashimoto was mentioning, we do want to see beyond just a small group. We want to see statewide if we can find some of that same interest and that same desire to eat whatever that product would be.
Okay, so this is only to test. This is not for you to be able to continually use this vehicle to be able to purchase over and over again $100,000.
Correct, correct. It's got to be, so what we're trying to do is figure out what products might be popular, or what, for example, maybe persimmons, maybe something that we haven't looked at previously, right? Or any sort of these sort of products that maybe we haven't thought about yet, like rambutan. You know, Hawaii is very unique in a lot of the different vegetables that are and produce that's involved here. That's why we also have almost all of, I think, the produce in Hawaii falls under specialty crop, because it's not something that's grown in other parts of the nation. So we face very different sort of both challenges and benefits of being here in Hawaii.
Okay, so this requires a report from you as to what vendors you
We're happy. I don't think it currently does, but I think we'd be more than happy to put a requirement about what vendors we use.
because it would be interesting to see the report on what vendors you actually sampled out and what you're doing each year with it, because if it's been used for other purposes, I think that would raise concerns for me as well.
Totally agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Members, further questions? Thank you. Okay, moving on. House Bill 1069, relating to education. This adds 2 voting members that represent the Department of Education. and Board of Education to the School Facilities Authority to testify. Department of Education.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Dino Chira, Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Capson, you also wanted to testify.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. Good to be back with you in person today. Capson Poi, Executive Director of the Board. The Board does stand on its written testimony in support of the measure and believes the addition of the Board's voice to the SFA Board would help with the needed accountability, strategic input, and oversight. Mahalo.
Thank you. Ricky Fujitani.
Thank you, Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, members, Ricky Fujitani with the School Facilities Authority. We've submitted testimony with comments and are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? If not, members, any questions?
Okay, I'll start off. Let's see, Ricky, can you come back up? So the last time we heard this measure, the Senate measure, there were concerns about communication. What's happened since then? Has there been more communication or better communication or what?
Right. So just to give you context, right, we have three programs: preschools, workforce housing, and New School Central Maui. We have one program manager. SFA is only 8 employees. We have 3 employees that focus on those programs. Actually, 2 of the 3 are former DOE project coordinators, so they know the process very, very well. They have monthly, twice a month meetings with their counterparts at the DOE on those meetings to discuss all issues. So that's all been scheduled. That's continuing.
So
And
have you held a meeting after we heard the bill?
yes,
Okay, and who
Yeah.
showed up at that meeting?
so for
DOE, who showed up at that meeting?
yeah, so for preschools, the first one it's Heidi Armstrong,
Okay,
and she's with the Ready Keiki Initiative.
and she was there at the meeting?
Yes, for workforce housing,
Mhm.
it was Deputy Superintendent, Head of FTB, the land person, project management, so they meet on that.
Okay,
And then for New School Central Maui, it's in full flight. Actually, we had probably 4 or 5 meetings. The last one was actually in Maui
okay,
with all the key principals
okay.
in Central.
And so was there issues that DOE felt wasn't being addressed
Maui.
that you're aware of?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I mean, we document everything. Everything's been documented. We can send you that information if requested. Yes.
Okay, and who's current members on the board right now?
The board members are Harold Edwards.
Mhm.
He is the industry representative. He's a contractor for Design Build Water.
Okay.
Janet Wase, who's a former DOE principal. And that's it.
But you have 5 members, so 3 vacancies.
Right. So there were positions, but the governor has retracted some of those positions that were interim.
Okay, so you haven't been able to vote on anything. How long have you had?
Right, so those positions were retracted last Monday. So we had 3 members until then, and we had our last board meeting. So in our next board meeting, we only have 2 members. But by statute, that is quorum because it's the majority of the sitting members. So as long as they agree, then we could continue and approve measures with even 2 members.
Even 2 members?
Yes.
And what kind of things do you folks have to vote on?
Typically policy level things. For what's coming up, it would be the next series of workforce housing locations, at least to start the due diligence process and identify properties. For Central Maui schools, not much because it's pretty much in design and planning. And for preschools, pretty much that's being dictated by the Ready Keiki Steering Committee. Yes, yes.
Okay,
So there's not much at the moment.
any more questions for him. Do anybody else have questions for him? I have other questions. Okay. How about DOE then? So again, can you tell this committee what it is that you think having two voting members, as I believe the measure we passed out last time was two ex officio members, right?
Right.
So what is it that two voting members would accomplish, or the problem it will solve that you can't solve now? And you can't solve with having two ex officio members?
I think because they're dealing with basically school facilities, the DOE will like more of a say in what happens with SFA and how they're moving forward.
So when you say have a say, what do you mean by that? Like, aren't you folks, aren't you included in the meetings where you can?
Right, but when the board takes action, I think DOE wants to be a part of that decision making. When the SFA board takes action.
And so what kind of actions have they taken that you folks felt that you didn't have a say in or needed to have a say in?
I think early on, I don't think we were aware of some of the projects that were ongoing. And I think if we had membership representation on the board, we might have been more aware of what was happening before it went public.
See, that's the thing I'm trying to get a handle on. You want to be more aware, but the meetings are public. You
Right.
can sit on it now and be aware, or with non-voting members, you can be there part of the discussion and be aware. So, that's what I heard last time. You want to be aware, but it seems as though, and then when I asked how many meetings, I asked the superintendent how many meetings, he only went to one. So it's like, okay,
We have staff at all the meetings, and then since the last meeting that the Senate had the hearing on, I've asked them to include us in all the meetings going forward.
okay.
So myself or another of the deputies would be sitting in on the meetings.
So how much more aware do you think you're gonna be if you'll be a voting member?
Well, I think that decision-making is what we want to be a part of, not just the awareness, but we want to be a part of the decision-making.
Okay.
Further questions, members?
Maybe this question is for the Board of Ed, Executive Director. So since the last time we had this meeting, did you guys have a presentation from SFA?
Yes, Senator, we did. SFA came, I believe, in the February meeting. And I think there was a lot of robust discussion between the Board of Education and SFA.
Okay, and then did you take our advice of having it as a standing agenda item, or you guys are not going to do that?
We were, but then we took them off the March agenda item, but I do think periodic, having them show up periodically on the board meeting agenda.
Why did you
is
take
part
them
of
off of the March agenda?
That was, the board was going to consider, it was in the process of possibly considering action regarding school impact districts, but SFA requested that it be removed.
No, but I'm just talking about a standing report from SFA. So there's none of that.
There was, in its place, I think part of it was to honor the discussion and interests of what that discussion would have encompassed. So that was used instead to talk about school impact fees and impact districts sort of generally. And I think a lot of issues were brought to top of mind for the Board of Education members.
Okay, so the reason that I ask is there is no reason to me why you need to have this bill if you just proactively keep adding them to your agenda of the board. So now that you took them off and didn't have a standing report, it questions what's the commitment from the BOE side to start communicating with SFA. So assistant superintendent or deputy, one of your deputy is saying that you want to be communicated to, but it's a two-way street. You guys should foster that communication. Doesn't necessarily need to be just on a you're sitting on the board, but the question is if you have a DOE member who's on the SFA board, who are they reporting back to? That's the question. And so that's why I'm saying if you really want to have that dialogue, it should be at the board level. And you should have everyone in that conversation at a posted meeting. So if you're choosing not to do that, then it tells me that you guys are a part of the problem. And why do we need this bill to fix it for you when you guys aren't proactively taking steps to fix that communication problem?
Well, Senator, then I think if we're part of the problem, I think part of the reason for it is, and for the ask is to be part of the solution.
Right. The solution is, why don't you just have them as a standing agenda item?
Well, and so I do.
Easy. You don't
I
need
do wanna concede that,
legislation.
and we can look at doing that, but again, at an
Well,
update.
meet me halfway. At least say you're gonna do something. Because if you're asking me for this, then
absolutely do something.
it doesn't seem like you're meeting me halfway. You're just
But-
like, okay, yes, move on. But
I do want to make sure I make the point, though, that it's not just about receiving updates, right? I do think, similar to the department, the board also wants more of a say.
the board,
and-
that's a
and
good time for
decision-making.
every single board member to have their say at that
Yes.
point. Right? At a SFA meeting, you're not gonna have every single board member giving instant feedback on any project.
Correct.
Anyway, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Okay,
Yes.
so it says the chairperson of the board or the chairperson's designee.
Yes.
So it's somebody that you're gonna designate or you're gonna sit, I mean, not you, but
The board
Chair.
chair, I mean, the current board chair is Roy Takumi, and I think from some previous discussions I think we've had here, I think his intention was whoever, whether it's him or a designee, that it would be consistent. That was, I think, your suggestion, Vice Chair, that we don't change it every time.
Okay,
So probably try and be consistent
Okay.
with that.
so this person will then have the ability to vote on SFA. Will they be voting on behalf of the board of the BOE? They'll be voting by themselves. I mean, how are they going to be able to run this on the board? And is it going to be a board agreed that you should be voting this way?
I don't, I'm not actually sure, but that's not how I envisioned it. I did envision that it would be a representative of the board, and they would have the authority to vote how they saw fit, and perhaps provide updates back to the Board of Education about what was going on at SFA, but that the designee would have the power and flexibility and authority to vote without really any restriction, just how
Okay.
they feel they should.
And therein lies my concern, because you're not going to necessarily be aware of what that individual voted for before they vote. Right? Because I'm hearing this from DOE as well. So DOE wants to be more aware, they want to have a say. Well, are they going to really have a say when the person that's there actually has to vote on something, and maybe they're going to vote the way and the rest of the DOE might not agree? I mean, I'm not certain how this measure is going to make them more aware of what's going on, which by having a non-voting member would probably serve the same way. Because again, you're not going to poll the whole board to say, well, how
No.
should we vote on this?
Yeah. Well, I think, Senator, sometimes it would be, you have opportunity to have conversation, right? And you sort of know where people stand and perhaps overall what their values are, and they're sort of, heading in the right direction.
Okay, so
Do
have-
they think things are heading in
So
the right
have the
direction?
board, and I probably asked DOE the same question. Have you folks ever reached out to the SFA board to let them know about certain issues? And perhaps like how you folks tell us, oh, you guys need to vote in favor of this, you need to vote in favor of that, please vote for this. This is, you folks have
So
that?
we do monitor it, but I don't know if we've actually said here is specifically the action we want to take. I wouldn't want to go that far and say that, but I do know we do
But
monitor.
did you let them know how you guys feel on these issues that's on the agenda?
I don't know if there was a specific, I don't want to say yes or no. I
You
can't
probably
think
have
of
not,
us.
Right, and
Yes,
that,
probably
that's
not.
lies my issue, that if you folks aren't communicating it, then just because you have one member on from you guys' board, that is going to be communicated as well, because the assumption is going to be that person is going to represent us. We've had representatives on HART. I've never known what they were going to do. I never agreed with them on what they voted on HART, on the city, on the rail. Okay, never agreed with them. And I don't think they ever came and asked us what we thought. they voted the way they wanted to vote. So I just doesn't know that this is going to solve that issue.
Yeah.
And when DOE had all of the facilities under DOE, there was a problem. There were problems. We had to move it out. We try all these different methods. And now we're at SFA thinking that this is going to solve the problem. They're gonna all be better. And now it's not. Now DOE wants back in to have control again. So I'm just, yeah, I'm having.
I think I hear you. I do think, again, it's at least from the board's perspective, the board sees that SFA's largest client is basically the department, and that takes up most of the Board of Education's time. And that's why the board was asking for its seat
And
as
so
well.
therein lies the thing, why don't you have them on your agenda if you're their client? Yeah.
I mean, there are efforts, and I think, Vice Chair, I do think it's ongoing communication and engagement opportunities, just because we didn't do once or 1 month doesn't mean we can't keep coming back to that and seeing when things can fit in and when we can have some of those discussions, right? I mean, I think part of what's needed is more calibration on.
What's needed is ongoing, consistency, which you just proved to us this by taking them off, that's not happening. So thank you.
Any further questions, comments? I do believe, though, Capson, that because this is related to the Department of Education and the facilities that they need, that it's important for the department to have their voices heard. And that's the reason for this measure, is to make sure that the board, as Board of Education, as well as Department of Education, is represented.
Yes, I think so. I absolutely agree with that, Chair. And I do think it allows more opportunity for conversation, alignment, and calibration in all of our efforts. Because at the end of the day, I think we all agree that the board believes, at least, that we have to build school facilities that our keiki deserve and their communities deserve.
Thank you. Okay. Is that the last slide? Okay. Moving on to SCR 66 and SR 44, requesting the Department of Education to develop and implement a statewide financial literacy curricula plan for public high school students. To testify, Capson.
Aloha again, Chair, Vice Chair, and members, Capson Poi, Executive Director of the board. The board does stand on its written testimony supporting the intent of this measure, and we do suggest and request small amendments, basically to use board policy. Mahalo.
Stephanie Sakamoto.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Stephanie Sakamoto on behalf of the Hawaii Credit Union League. I just want to reiterate that while we support SCR 66, we would prefer the passage of HB 619. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to testify, Tonga Hopoi, Chamber of Commerce.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tonga Poi, Chamber of Commerce, standing in support of our testimony. Also want to thank you, Chair, for your leadership in introducing the resolution. We do believe that financial literacy is a really big component to preventing the brain drain, as we've seen throughout the years for our local students leaving the islands after college and after high school. So here for any questions, and also happy Education Week. Thank you.
Thank you, Tonga. Next to testify, Danson Honda. Your sister could have come and helped you with it.
Aloha, Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, members of the Education Committee. My name is Danson Honda, and this is Phoebe. Phoebe is 2.5 years old. We are testifying in support of SCR 66 and SR 44. I brought Phoebe here today with me because when financial literacy legislation was first brought up in Hawaii, I was just a little kid myself. And today, here I am as an adult and recently a father, and we're still here talking about potentially making this happen. This binder here is filled with all the financial literacy legislation introduced over the years. To me, these aren't just pieces of paper. These represent the voices of so many of us over time, advocating for a more resilient Hawaii. When I first started fighting for financial literacy, it was due to my personal story of overcoming financial challenges to become a homeowner. But really, it's so much more than just myself or all of us for that matter. It's about our future generations and giving them the education that they need and the hope that they need, that by working hard and smart, that they can continue living here in Hawaii. So please, let's not delay any longer, and let's provide the accountability and the resources needed to make this happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Members' question. Thank you. Next to testify, Marvin Dang.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Marvin Dang, testifying on behalf of Visa. Visa is a private sector leader in financial literacy and has developed the Practical Money Skills program in conjunction with government agencies, educators, and others. You know, this resolution is very important. It's important because when high school students are able to learn about financial literacy and management skills, it will make them better prepared to face the economic challenges that they may have to deal with as adults. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chair Kidani, Vice Chair Kim, and members of the committee. I'm Terry Ushijima, Assistant Superintendent with the Department of Education, testifying on behalf of the superintendent. I apologize for our late testimony. The department is committed to expanding financial literacy education and has convened a literacy task force last spring in 2024 and has published an updated list of resources that has been distributed to all principals, teachers, and complex area superintendents. We have also, we are currently reviewing the vision of the high school graduate, and following that, we are going to be reviewing the required credits for graduation. And we note that the proposed resolution does have some challenges in terms of implementation, staffing, and funding. So to that end, the department has requested an appropriation for a position dedicated to financial literacy to assist with implementing financial literacy more fully. So thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Members' questions? Yes.
Understand, we always come to the point that we're gonna have to add funding on position, which is okay, but prior, where did it go? You know, teaching this in the schools, where did it go? What took place at that? Over the years, that we replaced it, what we don't have today? What you just said, because we tried to get it back into the schools, but what happened to it when we was going to school? So that's the question. I mean, I understand you guys asking for funding. Don't get me wrong, it's a great thing to fund. But we're spending a lot of money with adding positions, and then, you know, you guys do it with task force. So when are we gonna be able to just use what we have?
We have been using what we have so far. And over the last 3 years, we have had people who, we don't have any dedicated person with that this falls within their duties, but we've pulled people to work together to create and determine some financial literacy standards based on national financial literacy standards, which didn't exist before. And we did convene a task force with the resources that we have, inviting different stakeholders. And we did come up with a report that lists the recommendations. And even vetting, an updated list of financial literacy resources for our schools. We've identified some free ones, and we've talked to credit union partners. We've talked to some vendors. There's newer things coming out all the time, and some of it looks really good. And so there's some options that are no cost to schools, and some of it is from community support. What we don't have is someone who is dedicated to facilitate this work and to move it forward more quickly. We've also explored the personal transition plan. That's in progress right now, and we're asking students what are some of the things that should go in that. And so we did add a question to ask students what's important to you. And as we continue our work with the vision of the high school graduate, that should be the core, right, of what we want to produce. So we're anticipating financial literacy because we're hearing some of it already, and we've been hearing it from the community. Our intention also is, we know it's important for all our graduates to have basic financial literacy skills before they graduate. So once that's done, then of course we'll include stakeholders in the graduation requirements. And because that's one of the recommendations that resulted from the task force report. And, the number one recommendation, we had 11 members support this, and no one opposed it. 2 were neutral, was for financial literacy to be a fundamental core skill that should be embedded within the K-12. And right now it is, but I think we have to update to see exactly where it is. We have a list, but that's, we've updated our social studies standards since then. So that would need updating. But the second recommendation, the department should make financial literacy a mandatory graduation requirement. That was tied as the second recommendation with a step-by-step plan to make it a recommendation, but do it more gradually and incorporate some of the other recommendations into the process.
Just a follow-up. The only reason why I bring this up, and I came and I was interested because all the students from my school, well, not my school, the school I used to go to, Hawai'i school, I was surprised. All of the kids that came, different times they came within, over half of them was talking about that, and the other half was transportation. And it was really good to hear that we're gonna try to do something like this, because that's what they asked. When they were sitting in front of me, that was the ask. So you just want to thank Senator Kodani and his committee, but yeah.
And we would like to do more too. We're just
Thank you.
requesting. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Jerry, question. So you've testified to us in the past that the schools, some schools or many schools offer financial literacy as an elective, correct?
That some, yes, they have the option to do that. About, I want to say 4 years ago, ACCN code was created so that schools could offer it as an option.
Okay, so my question is why are you going through all of this when if it's already been an elective and the whole request have been over the years is to put it as a requirement in the schools? So I don't understand why you need a dedicated person. I know this resolution calls for a lot of stuff, but over the years, we've just asked that it be part of the requirements as a required class. So if you already have an elective, you already have the basis of what should be taught.
We do. We have that part. We have
Okay.
some drafted financial literacy standards.
Okay,
And the elective course, it's an interdisciplinary elective. So it could be taking things from social studies. It could be taking things from math. It could, so when we came up with the financial literacy standards, that is a resource for any school who's providing financial literacy to kind of use that as a guideline. So you are covering things very similar to what is in this resolution. But to make it a requirement, as if it's a graduation requirement, it would have to go through a process and,
Okay, so what's the difference
Yeah.
between having it as a regular course, not an elective, but not necessarily saying it's a requirement for graduation? Because if it's part of what you have to take,
Mhm.
everybody would take it, right? So I don't know the difference between it being a course that's embedded into the high school versus saying it's a graduation requirement, because it would be part of the whole overall graduation requirement. I mean, we've been asking for this simply all these years, as you can see from the folder, that I've introduced measures for it, other members here have
I could
introduced
see, yes,
right? So how, and then you go and you put together a task force. I don't understand, because this is, parents have called us, contacted us. We've talked to you folks about it. So I don't, and you have electives, you just haven't pulled the trigger to make it part of the overall. We keep hearing you got to take something away. Well, you know, again, I'm not sure how us giving you one position, because we don't give you a position every time you guys decide to add something to the curriculum, right?
It's that our specialists in our office, they're pretty much at capacity in terms of what they need to do. And so to devote the kind of attention we would need to move this forward so that we can, the difference is, I think we would like to ensure that every high school student has basic financial literacy
That's what we've been
exposure,
asking.
right, before they graduate.
That's what we've
Right
been
now,
asking.
right now, it's kind of, if they choose to take an elective, they can. So one idea that was proposed was perhaps if it is incorporated into an existing course, you know, that might be a possibility. And so part of the reason for having a task force was to see not just, okay, I think everyone agrees that financial literacy is extremely important.
Then why
you know,
has it
and
taken the DOE
it's-
so long to even put something together?
So we have been trying with the resources that we've had.
Okay, the last question I have is, you mentioned you folks ask students what they want, right? You've asked students what they want in the financial literacy.
We just put out as part of our personal transition plan survey, we first we went to some of our student leaders. And so we posed a question out there. I have not seen the results
What's
yet.
the question?
I think it's asked, I don't have the specific question in front of me, but we added it amongst other questions regarding their aspirations for future careers, what kinds of skills do they need to know, what kind of knowledge, but we had a specific question about financial literacy in terms of should it be, I think it was incorporated in as part of their personal transition plan. That is a graduation requirement.
Well, I can understand you asking that question, but it's hard to ask a question to somebody who maybe not know what they need to know, right? I mean, you have these high school graduates and I'm sure, like when I was graduating, what I needed to know as far as financial literacy. I think that's why you're there. I don't think you asked them, what kind of algebra you think you need to have, but I'm just saying that you folks are the educators. We are the ones that's supposed to come up with the policy. And so it's great that you asked them, but I hope you're just not waiting to see, because a lot of times they're not going to be aware of what are the things they need to learn. They might not know about student debt and some of the things that are going on. They might not know about, the stock market and how to invest and stuff. So how would they even know to add that in their answer?
I think our question was more general. I think they know that financial literacy is really important, being able to manage your money when you grow, get a job. Even if they may not know the very specific things like credit or how do you look in terms of making smart financial decisions, budgeting, and looking at
Yeah, well, as
various
a high
skills.
school student, do you know they get so much money, they're gonna spend it, they figured, I know enough about finances that I don't need to take a class, right? I mean, so I'm just
I
saying
think,
that
yes.
we've been asking for this for over a decade.
And I think that's the issue with the electives, because with the electives, they would spend a whole semester just on that topic. I think in general, it appears that financial literacy, having those skills is more of an interest.
Well, I think right now, we need at least 1/4 of financial literacy to start. And I think this is something that should have been implemented years ago and should be implemented immediately. And I don't necessarily think that you need to go through a working group, asking a survey and going through all of this stuff to be able to give them the basics, at least the basics on financial literacy.
And many schools, I think, it's just that we are not able to say that every student has it before they graduate from high school. And that's what we would like to be able to do.
Okay, thank you. Further questions, Senator?
So at least give us a timeline. What is the timeline that you're looking at?
I think the timeline depends on our resources as well. So that is why.
Well, but if
part
it's a
of-
priority, you make it happen. So are you saying that it's not a priority?
I think it has been a priority so that despite this not being in anyone's specific, responsibilities, we have found a way to create the standards to get stakeholder input, and we've updated our resources, and even that requires time because you have to meet with people, you have to review materials, and when we put something out there for schools to use, we want to make sure that it's something that.
Okay, so what is the class that everyone has to take these days? I think back when I was, this is 20 years ago, it was like everyone had to take guidance class.
Yes, I
Right?
took too.
Is that still around?
No, it's not.
Okay, what did that transform into?
It's a personal transition plan.
Okay, so it's not even a class anymore.
It is a half credit course.
Okay, so there's something there.
Yes.
So why don't you try and just get something in there as an incremental step? Can you commit to that at least? Something. Give us a timeline.
So, respectfully, I don't think it's my sole decision to say.
But at least give us
If I had a
something.
magic wand, that might be one thing that I might, want to do, but it's.
But because what I'm feeling is you're just kind of saying you're doing all these things and you're kind of like, okay, we'll keep doing it and we're going to keep doing it. And then we're going to be here next year with the same conversation. So I just want to know something that we can say, okay, you committed that at least something will happen. Something, give us something.
I think with additional resources that we will be able to.
But that's the thing. Who works on the personal transition plan curriculum right now? That person should be able to do it.
So we have our Office of Student Support Services.
So they
who's
work on that
working
plan?
it right now. Across office, we have someone from our office also involved. We have, they have people from other offices as well. So it's not solely them,
Okay,
but
so
they're
it's
reviewing that right now to see what else needs to, because right now there's variation in terms of how the personal transition plan is designed, because the schools look at their school communities, their students, and they have come up with what they have determined as most appropriate.
I get it. So what I'm hearing, and just so you know, this is what I'm hearing, is there's a lot of excuses.
Well,
That's what I'm hearing. A lot of excuses.
Well, I'm sorry if it sounds like we're making excuses. We do want to make this happen for all our students, and part of that might be through the personal transition plan.
I'm just telling you something that's existing. If you say you need more resources, I'm throwing something out there. And if you feel that that's not the way, then you go find something else. But I'm giving you an idea.
and that's a great idea, and I think that idea
But
is
what,
on
but
the
when can
table.
we get something that you think you should be able to deliver something? I'm not saying a full class. I don't even know if you need a full class, but at least something that we can have to all students before they graduate, like writing a check. How many people know how to write a check? That every single high school student. I don't think I even learned how to write a check in high school. I think it was thanks to my 8th grade English teacher who taught us how to write a check. So so some things needs to be revamped with the curriculum, and you should be concerned that people don't know how to write a check or balance a checkbook. That doesn't concern you?
I think they should be able to write a
Right. I just had this long conversation with my sister who teaches in high school, and we're talking about what are the life skills that people need, and it's not embedded in the DOE curriculum. And so I think your office should be tasked with trying to figure out what is the relevant skills that people need, and not needing to create all these excuses to get it implemented. I think I'm just really frustrated. Maybe it's not even a reso that we need. Maybe we need to move the bill, because it just seems like when we come back here in 1 year, you're going to say, oh, maybe we moved a little bit on our working group, but nothing has happened yet. And I don't want that to happen. I don't know what it's going to take. We're giving you the freedom through a reso to implement this, but every time nothing happens. And that's the frustration.
Well, things are happening. I think we do want things to happen quicker, and that has been our intention. And I know that it has not been quick enough. And given our present capacity, we have been doing what we can.
Okay, well, I think if it reflects a priority of the department, then it should. You can figure out how to make it happen with the hundreds and hundreds of employees that you have existing. And if it's not, then you will continue to give excuses. So I think that is the litmus test. So if you feel that it's important, you will make it happen. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
So do you have any idea how many other states require financial literacy?
I would have to go back and check on that.
Could you please?
Yes, we will check on that.
Let this committee
I
know,
think at
because-
one time we checked, but I don't have.
Because if they have financial literacy, what did they give up? Or did they extend the school hours? I'm just asking. We need to.
The curriculum.
Yeah, we need to look at this, because this comes up every year.
And we are, it is in queue for us to review our graduation requirements. And that's part of our strategic plan. So it is.
And who
one
makes
of
that
action.
decision?
The Board of Education would have to approve it.
Okay, but do they realize what we're asking and what we've asked for a number of years when you guys go over the curriculum?
I believe they do.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if what you believe is correct, but I'd like to know for sure. Thank you.
2 more questions, one for you. So you folks already asked for this position that you talk about in your testimony?
Yes,
So it was already asked in the beginning of the
we
year
asked the previous year also.
for the
Yes.
position.
Mhm.
Okay, can we have Board of Education come up?
Thank you.
So the BOE knows that this is a bill, and this is something that we have asked for year after year for, I don't know, a decade now, I think. And what has the board done? Has the board passed a policy to say that this should be part of the graduation requirements, or what did the board do?
No, the board has not. I don't think the board has actually considered it. I'd have to go back and confirm.
Is there a reason why they haven't considered it?
Without repeating some of the reasons that, basically I was going to mention some of the reasons that the department did. The board the board is aware and is more keenly aware, I think, especially after this session, knowing how long or the history now, right, that it has been for several sessions now. So the board is aware and taking a look. As far as getting movement, the board tends to look at the PTP, that personal transition plan that Assistant Superintendent spoke about, as the one of the preferred means to do it.
So have the board look at it, or you just talked about looking at it?
There's been discussion and it may be more an update, perhaps by one of the committees. Usually that falls under the Student Achievement Committee. But Vice Chair, I think to your question as the board, grab the ball and run with it, perhaps not that aggressively.
What would it take to have that happen? Because again, the board is well aware. I mean, we've been sitting in these meetings for years, and there's always been somebody from Board of Education in the meetings. And we've asked them what it would take to require it to be part of the graduation requirements or to be one of the required classes. And they said, well, we have to look at what we're going to get rid of or what it's going to replace. So I am just shocked to hear that you folks have not gone beyond a discussion. That has not been something that you voted on as to whether you're going to add it to the personal, what is it called?
The personal
Transition,
plan.
or, because I know I had guidance class as well. And, I'm not sure why the wheel has to be reinvented when you already have electives out there. There's other states that have adopted it. And again, we're not talking about, literacy 5.0. We're talking about literacy 101 or, less than 101, the basic literacy, writing a check and understanding about, when you charge something that you're going to have these fees and you're going to have late fees and so forth. Because I know my sister and my mom thought I just paid a minimum amount, didn't realize it's going to take them 11 years to pay off the balance if they only pay the minimum. But those are the basic stuff. And so, I mean, between the Board of Education and DOE, you guys are the smart people with degrees. Come on, I think we can figure this out. We haven't done it yet.
I think, Senator, I should say then that, you asked what it would take. And I do think conversations like this to remind the board staff, the department staff is part of that.
Okay, but we're tired already. We've had this discussion over and over again. We don't know what it's going to take. Start amending
Can you
it.
ask the board to agenda this issue for their next meeting and go as far as asking other states and counties whether or not they have had literacy required, financial literacy required, and if so, what did they have to give up or what did they have to do? What was the mechanics of the whole thing?
Chair, absolutely. I can tell you, I will take that back to either the board chair or the appropriate committee chair to see what might be able to get scheduled.
Thank you.
And we'll take that. I'll definitely take that back.
Thank you, Captain. Further questions, comments?
Yeah, if we have a bill, the bill passed, what would you folks do?
Well, Vice Chair, if it is the prerogative and decision of the legislature, of course, we would have to comply.
So why aren't we passing the bill?
Well, for me, the reason why is I don't know what they would have to give up. That's the hard
Or
part.
they could
whether-
just add it to the personal.
Or add it to the time frame of school and, I'm just saying there's a lot of other things
Right,
involved.
but then we just heard that it could be added to that personal transition without giving up any. But I think unless we get serious about it, it's not gonna happen. We've seen that already. It's just my 2 cents.
I think when the board does consider it, Vice Chair, the board does also take into account some of the messaging that needs to go out to the schools. I mean, it is a large system, so we do the board does try and take that into account. But as I said to Chair, I will definitely take that back.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to provide testimony? If not, recess. Reconvening the Committee on Education. So committee has been in discussion and the recommendation is for House Bill 110 HD1 to pass with amendments, and we will effect the date to July 1, 2050.
Okay, if there's no discussion, House Bill 110, House Draft 1, passed with amendments, Chair Kidani.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Kanu.
Aye.
Senator Decort.
Aye.
5 members present, all voting aye, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. For House Bill 1293, House Draft 2, the recommendation is the same, to pass with amendments and effect the date to July 1, 2050.
Okay, members, House Bill 1293, House Draft 2. Any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Hearing none, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. For House Bill 1069 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments, and the amendments would be to take the language of Senate Bill 1388 SD2 and effect the date to July 1, 2050.
Okay, recommendation HB
69.
1069, House Draft 1, with amendments, any member voting no, any
No.
members? No, vote for each page, no. Any members with reservations? Hearing none, 4 members voting aye, 1 no, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. And for the final measure, SCR 66 and SR 44, which request the DOE to develop and implement a statewide financial literacy plan for public high school students. Recommendation is to pass as is.
Okay. SCR 66 and SR 44 pass as is. Any member voting no? Any members with reservations? Hearing none, recommendation is adopted with 5 members voting.
Thank you, member. That concludes the hearing.
I'd like to call the Committee on Higher Education and jointly with Education to order. We are in conference room 229. It is 4:19. We're on the 301 agenda item. And this meeting is being streamed live on YouTube, and in the likely event we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties. The committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business on Tuesday. That's tomorrow in room 229 at 3 p.m. Our first item on the agenda and only item on the agenda is House Bill 549, House Draft 3, relating to Early Learning Apprenticeship Grant Program. And this establishes an Early Learning Apprenticeship Grant Program to be administered by the University of Hawaii. And here to testify on that measure is, let's see, Yuko Cross, Arikawa Cross, for Early Learning, Office of Early Learning.
Hi, Chair Kim and Chair Kidani. I'm Yuko Arikawa Cross, Director of the Executive Office on Early Learning. We stand on our written testimony and support, and we defer to the University of Hawaii on implementation and funding. Early Learning registered apprenticeship programs provide aspiring early childhood professionals with structured hands-on experience, employer-paid classroom learning, and comprehensive support to advance their careers. Many people entering the early learning field are non-traditional students who really benefit from the additional wraparound support and mentoring included in this model. By investing in these programs, we can address workforce shortages through recruitment and retention, improve compensation and benefits, and strengthen early career pathways for early learning professionals. EOEL welcomes the opportunity to collaborate with UH on the grant award criteria, and we appreciate the legislature's continued investment in our keiki and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan Murata from University of Hawaii.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Kim, Chair Kidani, Senator Kanua. Nathan Murata, Dean, College of Education, UH Manoa. We stand in support of our written testimony. I'll be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Chevelle Davis.
Hello, Chair Kim and Chair Kidani. My name is Chevelle Davis with Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, and we will stand on our written testimony in support. Mahalo.
Thank you, Chevelle. Michael Golu,
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
present, okay. Vivian Ito.
Aloha Chair and Vice Chair. I'm Vivian Eto here on behalf of Early Childhood Action Strategy. We'll stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you so much.
Terry Locke.
Aloha Chair, aloha Vice Chair. Thank you so much for hearing this bill. I stand on my testimony as presented, and if there's any questions, I'll be here to answer them. Mahalo.
Thank you. Joshua Wish.
Hello, Chair Josh Wish with Holomua. We'll also stand on our testimony and support available for any questions you might have. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you so much. Anybody else wishing to testify on this measure in this room or on Zoom or out in the hallway? Okay, none. Members' questions. I have questions for you each. So Nathan, how would this apprentice grant program work?
My understanding is the funding would be coming to the university. University puts together the protocols and criteria and works closely with EOEL and the counties. And then the grant monies are then distributed to either the counties or the service provider for our infants and toddlers and up to age 5 programs.
Okay, so it doesn't actually go to those people actually doing the program?
It will, because then
I mean, you're not training them, somebody training them, or it's just giving money out?
Well, I think it's we're not doing any training per se. But we are able to provide the funding so that they can continue to receive some training and some services in order for them to stay within the profession.
Yeah,
The training, excuse me.
Yeah.
So the training actually will be at the community colleges. So as an apprenticeship model, it's a earn while you learn program. We're beginning at the community college. We actually have started started apprentices at Honolulu Community College. We want to expand it to other 4. We have 4 early childhood programs at our community colleges across our state. So we want to expand it that way.
Okay, so these providers would come and take a.
So the providers would be the ones that would be hiring the apprentices.
Apprentices, and they
The-
would be coming.
Right, the apprentices will go take
Okay.
classes.
How long is that course?
So
Class?
currently, for an apprentice to start the program and then actually complete it to get their associates will be 3 years.
Okay, and so this grant would pay for the entire 3 years?
This grant will pay, yes, will pay for the 3 years for the apprentice.
Okay, is there any kind of requirement for them to? I mean, what happens if they decide they don't want to be?
Or like a service obligation.
Yeah, so in order to, so part of the requirement will be to stay in that organization to work for several years.
So is
Yes.
that something that's going to be drafted prior to?
That'll be part of the
That'll be part of
procedures.
what you
Yeah,
have to
and so I
sign.
do want to say that we have one registered apprenticeship program currently in Hawaii, one early childhood apprenticeship program. And that has been already vetted by the Department of Labor. And so these providers will actually follow what that apprenticeship model is,
Okay.
which is a 3-year
And
program.
it has a service. And if
Yes.
and they don't do it, then they have to.
They have to
return-
pay back.
They have to pay back on that. Okay. And so you just have one program now at HCC.
We have one sponsoring agency, and then their apprentice is at HCC. We have some interest in Hawaii Island at this point.
How many apprentices you're asking for approximately how much? For this program?
Yeah, so
It's
I know.
blank in here and I'm not sure.
Right, yeah, we left on a flyer.
Yeah,
right before
Yeah,
this
you
meeting.
did leave a flyer.
Yeah, and what, what that flyer is based from our last meeting here, we decided to be a little bit strategic and present to you something less than what was asked for. Primarily also, we have the some funding from the Castle Foundation to
Yeah,
help us,
To
so
help us start.
we wanted to provide that updated.
So what's that less? I know my staff
Um,
told me that you're gonna ask for less.
Oh, that one, actually, they're just giving us a beginning amount, well, an amount about 40,000 to get started, and that would go to, every apprentice has to have a mentor. It's similar to other trades, usually in other trades, it's called a journey worker.
Right,
but
but what's
it-
the ask? What's the ask?
Oh, for,
To the ledge, what is the ask?
okay, so back up.
It's changed from the back.
Yeah, so initially we'd asked for about twice as much,
Yeah.
but right now we're asking for 7.6 the first year and
7.6 million?
yes.
Yes.
Part of the reason why this is that amount is because this also has a wage supplement program. So the providers would be able to also do some wage supplements for their existing staff. So they can participate in the wage structure that's within the apprenticeship model.
So what are you folks doing now for that one class that you have? That one apprenticeship?
What about that?
How are you paying for that?
That one is being paid for through some existing funds that the sponsoring agency has right now.
And how much is that?
I really don't know.
Because 7 million is a lot in
Yep.
this time right now. So
Yeah,
what would be the minimum you can run,
run a program that could be statewide. Not quite sure.
or where the greatest need is at this point?
Yeah,
Because I'm just trying to be realistic. as
Sure.
to
yeah,
when
we
you're getting
understand.
the chances of
And
you
that,
getting
and we
7
tried to be
million.
realistic and proactive
Because
too
this
in
is
this.
not part of the UH budget, right?
No, it's not.
Right, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
So it's an ad, so that means
Yes.
something's gotta come out,
Mhm.
Mhm,
out of the budget. Where do we take it from?
yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
Okay, well, that's something that,
Was something we can talk.
before we get, as we
Okay.
get to conference.
Yes.
Okay, members, any questions, other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, let's see that one. Okay, the recommendation members for House Bills 549, House Draft 3 for Early Learning Apprenticeship Grant Program is already blank. The amounts are blank in this bill. And so the recommendation is to defect the date to July 31st, 2050, and that we make technical and non-substantive amendments. Any discussion? Hearing none, chair votes aye.
For House Bill 549 HD 3, for higher ed, chair votes aye, vice chair votes aye. Senator Fukunaga excused, Senator Hashimoto,
Aye.
Senator Favela excused. Measures adopted.
Thank you. And same recommendation for the Committee on Education. Oh, I'm sorry, that's, you say that. not me.
Okay. Okay, House Bill 549 HD 3, same recommendation for the Committee on Education. Chair votes aye.
For House Bill 549, House Draft 3 to pass with amendments. Any member voting no, any member voting with reservations, hearing none. The 3 members present vote aye, excuse. Oh, I'm sorry, education. Okay, let me just go down. Senator Kidani,
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye, Senator Hashimoto.
Aye.
Senator Kanuha.
Aye.
Senator Decourt.
Aye.
5 ayes, recommendations adopted, Madam Chair. And we are adjourned. Thank you.